At exactly midnight, a decision was made that would echo far beyond palace walls. It wasn't announced with ceremony or crowds. There were no speeches, no cameras, and no chance for a final appeal. Behind closed doors, one signature threatened to redefine the relationship between a king and his youngest son forever. But the real story wasn't about a royal title. It was about trust, family, and the impossible cost of protecting an institution built on tradition. Inside a quiet royal residence, King Charles studied a document that represented years of growing division. Every page before him symbolized a conflict that had steadily widened since Prince Harry stepped away from official royal duties. Advisors had reviewed every detail. Legal experts had refined every line. Yet the monarch hesitated. This was no routine constitutional matter. It concerned his own son. For years, the royal family had balanced two competing priorities. On one side stood the monarchy, an institution expected to project stability, discipline, and continuity. On the other stood a father, hoping that private wounds might someday heal. That balance became harder to maintain as disagreements increasingly played out on the global stage, placing enormous pressure on Buckingham Palace to define where personal loyalty ended and official responsibility began. Elsewhere, Prince Harry continued building a new life overseas, believing that despite years of tension, one final thread still connected him to the royal establishment. Whatever disagreements remained, that symbolic connection represented far more than status. It reflected history, identity, and family. But as midnight approached, Charles faced a choice that no monarch and no father would ever want to make. Once the pen touched the paper, there would be no easy path back. The decision waiting inside that folder had the power to transform not only royal protocol, but the future of one of Britain's most closely watched families. As the hours passed, the weight of the decision spread beyond one office and into the lives of everyone closest to the crown. For King Charles, the question was no longer whether the monarchy could survive another controversy. It was whether the institution could continue asking the public for trust while uncertainty remained inside its own family. Prince William viewed the crisis through a different lens. One day, the responsibility of protecting the monarchy would become his alone. Every unresolved dispute left behind today could become tomorrow's constitutional burden. Even so, the conflict was deeply personal. This was not simply another royal disagreement. It involved the brother who had once stood beside him through childhood, grief, and unimaginable public attention. Across the Atlantic, Harry found himself confronting a reality he had struggled to imagine. Whatever distance had grown between him and the palace, he had always believed there remained a symbolic bridge connecting his family to the institution. The possibility of losing that final connection forced him to reconsider everything it had represented over the years. The growing tension reached its peak when father and son agreed to meet privately, away from cameras, advisors, and public statements. There would be no carefully prepared speeches, no official press releases, and no audience to influence the conversation. Only years of disappointment, frustration, and unanswered questions remained between them. Harry argued that disagreement should never erase family. Charles answered that criticism alone had never created the crisis. What had damaged the relationship, he believed, was the repeated collapse of trust. The room fell silent. Both men understood that this conversation was no longer about titles or protocol. It had become a painful reckoning between a father trying to defend a centuries-old institution and a son convinced he had already lost his place within it. When their private meeting ended, no dramatic farewell followed. No voices echoed through the halls, and no last-minute compromise emerged. The silence itself revealed everything. Both father and son walked away, knowing that years of fractured trust had reached a point where neither emotion nor history could easily undo the damage. In the days that followed, preparations continued behind palace walls with remarkable precision. Officials reviewed ceremonial records, constitutional procedures, and future royal protocols, ensuring that every decision reflected the monarchy's long-standing commitment to consistency. Public attention focused on the possibility of change, but inside the institution, the greater concern was preserving stability for the generations still to come. Outside the palace, debate quickly spread across Britain and beyond. Some believed firm action was necessary to protect the credibility of the crown. Others viewed the growing distance within the family as a heartbreaking reminder that even the world's most famous monarchy could not escape personal conflict. Headlines captured the controversy, commentators offered competing opinions, and millions watched as another chapter in royal history unfolded. Yet beneath every public discussion remained a quieter truth. Titles can symbolize duty, privilege, and tradition, but they cannot restore broken confidence or erase years of misunderstanding. Institutions may survive difficult decisions, but families often continue carrying the emotional consequences long after official statements fade from memory. For King Charles, the responsibility of protecting the monarchy came with a deeply personal sacrifice. For Prince Harry, the journey ahead meant defining his future beyond the expectations of royal life. And for Prince William, the episode served as a powerful reminder that leadership sometimes demands choices with no perfect outcome. History rarely remembers only the documents that were signed. It remembers the people who lived through them, and the relationships forever changed by the decisions made behind closed doors. Subscribe.